Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning. This is Stan coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. And today I'm in a good mood, and we're going to discuss the 5 Ds of design, stage manager skills, should I get a design credit, and what happens when the design changes midway. All on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And it's dry and sunny today. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And don't ruin my good mood. I'm in a good mood.
All right. Well, hopefully the sun is shining wherever you are.
Oh, it's gorgeous here.
How about you, Steve? Is it sunny in Dallas today, or is it cold?
82.
No way. It's not 82 degrees in Dallas.
It is. It's in fact, we're going to stay in this kind of weather for the entire month of January.
Oh my God!
I actually have daffodils coming up in my front lawn.
I'm telling you, climate change is happening. It's a happening thing.
No, hey, you know what? There is some news.
What's that?
It's not related to lighting, but it is related to the climate. Since you brought that up, I posted an article just yesterday that, guess what? The ozone layer is practically healthy and thicker than ever and restoring itself. And the amount of these terrible fluorocarbons in the atmosphere have been reduced. So there was some really good news on the climate from the United Nations just yesterday.
So in other words, I can race my 1969 Firebird 8-cylinder, right? And
get rid of that Tesla and get back to burning fossil. No, not at all.
Okay, if anyone owns a 1969 Firebird convertible that's silver with white vinyl interior, 3-speed, that's my car.
David, you got the wrong podcast. This is Light Talk, not Car Talk.
I'll trade you a Tesla for that.
Did you see that new prototype Honda that's out right now? I think it's going into the race car circuit. It's electric, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Teslas have been doing that actually for a while. That's ludicrous mode is 2.3 seconds.
1964 Ford F-150 pickup truck in perfect condition was converted to electric. I saw that. I went, now there's an idea.
Wait. That's been out for a while, Stan. The Ford 150 electric. Like a year or two.
No. I said a 1964 mint condition F-150, and this company changed it to electric, and it's like faster than your Tesla. And I'm thinking, my 2006 Mercedes, I'm ready. I'm going to electrify my old car. I like that idea. Very sustainable.
So, Stan, I'm going to just remind you that you need to speak into the microphone and not turn your head.
This is the microphone.
This happens every single time. You're like turning to the right.
He's like looking for something.
What's going on?
Let me just explain for the viewers, listeners, what's happening.
He's looking around as he talks. That's what's happening.
No, but let me say, okay, I'm going to show it to you guys. So over here, there's one screen.
Yeah, I know. Well, you can't look over
here,
there.
There's another screen where I see you.
Right.
And over here, there's a teleprompter with the camera.
And that's when we can hear you really well. Otherwise, you fade out totally.
But the problem is the script is over here.
But why don't you put the script in the teleprompter? That's where a teleprompter is for. Is you put a script on the teleprompter.
I could.
That's how they do it in the professional world.
What an idea!
Wait,
that's why
so the teleprompter is just rolling. Say, Stan, speak into the mic. Speak into the mic.
It's too small to read, and the problem is the way it works. I'm not using teleprompter software.
I want you to listen to something for a second, Stan. Just all with love. We're doing this with love, everyone. Okay?
Yeah, they love me. They love me like they love their mother-in-law. Let me tell you.
This is me talking into the mic, and this is me talking sideways. Do you hear the difference?
No.
Okay.
I have hearing loss.
That's right. Okay.
The teleprompter I'm not using teleprompter software, so the words are reversed on the teleprompter.
Well,
screen.
read them backwards and upside down. That's really interesting.
That would be funny. I'm using the teleprompter so I can look at you in the eye.
Oh my! But now I can hear you. You see, it's.
What do you want? Both? You want audio and visual?
I would like
what do you
audio.
think this is? An
Our
AV
listeners
squad
don't
over
see
here?
you. They don't see us. They're listening to us. So what happens is when you're talking, you're like talking like this, and then all of a sudden you fade away, and then you get up and go get a drink, and then you're way over here, You come back and you're talking. It's like,
You mean
Stan,
Light Talk is not done with video?
no, we don't do video, and there's a good reason
What
for
kind
that.
of old school shit
It's
is
totally
this?
good. We've talked about this a long time before. Okay, it's time for news. Well, the big news of the day, of the week, is actually next week. URTAs begin. And since I don't have a grad program anymore, I can stay nice and warm here in Southern California. But my two brothers, Stan and Steve, and Brackley too will be there, right?
And Ann, I think Ann will be there too.
Oh, yeah.
You'll all be at URTAs, freezing your buns off. You'll be freezing in Chicago. Freezing.
Not in the hotel. It's very toasty in the hotel.
Well, yeah, but you're going to just spend a whole weekend in a hotel?
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. So anyway, any lighting prospects? I mean, how many people are showing their lighting portfolios this year?
I don't know, 4. Not many. It is a all-you-can-eat buffet of costume designers.
Yeah, it's always been.
I've never seen so many guys and gals in costume design sign up before.
It's like 2 days of costume designers, right? Pretty
There's
much.
there's about 15 LDs with those virtual and the live. But one of my undergrads is there, so go for it, guys. He's good.
Are you allowed to say what his name is?
Jacob Goldberger.
Well, Jacob, go for it. And don't take less than $20,000 a year because there's a lot of competition. I'm telling you that right now. The only person who can afford that is Steve Woods.
We should mention that the URTA is doing the undergraduate mentor award again in all the areas, and I volunteered to be an adjudicator for lighting, and I don't want the award because I got it the first year and don't need it again. So that's good. So I'm looking to see those great undergrads whose teachers really shine them up good for us.
How about me? Why haven't I gotten this undergraduate lighting mentor of the year? I don't have a sword.
Have you been
Yes, I've
sending
had
any
students go. I don't know if they're coming.
undergraduates?
No.
Well, they only started it about 4 years ago.
It's okay. It's okay.
You know what, David? You get the honorary award.
Thanks, Stan. Okay, so URTA is happening, and guys, I hope you make it have a wonderful time, okay?
Thank you.
So let's get started. We have a lot to talk about today. Last week we had...
Let's start with that Georgia TCU
Well,
game.
we could talk about Georgia TCU, and it lasted about 7 minutes, if I remember correctly. We turned on the TV, and Lori said, "My God, we must be at halftime. It's like 24-6." I said, "No, it's only 7 minutes into the game." It's like, this is going to be a long ass game, so I'm not going to watch it. So anyway, we did something else. But first of all, last week we had Jeff Kreuter on the show. And boy, that has stirred up a lot of listener questions. So we have a few of them today. Plus, one of our longtime sponsors was so inspired with Jeff's advice to students, they introduced a new product that you'll hear for the first time on this show. So that's really exciting. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about artificial intelligence during Let's Talk About. Actually, let's get started.
Yeah, what are you waiting for? It's a big, long intro.
As usual, Steve is going to start us off with the first listener question.
And it comes from Katie in Texas. And she writes, "How important are stage manager skills as you develop as a lighting designer?" Interesting question. I think as you start your career as a lighting designer, you're going to work with a lot of terrible stage managers. And you're going to work with some that are really great. So I always think that young, inexperienced lighting designers are better off if they're working with a really strong, skilled stage manager. Because you can learn a lot from a stage manager as a lighting designer. You can learn about communication, how you get the idea of when you want the cue called. You want the stage manager involved in that. Is it a placement on a line? Is it a placement on someone walking across stage? They're a partner with you. If they're a good stage manager, they help you. I think, a good stage manager teaches a young lighting designer about keeping things moving, not rushing, but just kind of keeping things moving, slow, steady pace. Let's keep going. I think there's a lot of skills that you can gain from a stage manager. And as you gain those skills, what's going to happen is you're going to help some of those first-time stage managers. You're going to help them put together a call script that's working to your advantage as a lighting designer. It's an odd little dance that the lighting designer and the stage manager does. But I promise you, if I ever get a Tony Award, I'm going to have my assistant and my stage manager on stage with me, because they're both vital members of the team once you're in the theater, and they can really make or break you, I think. What about you, David?
Stage management, and I've said this for many, many times, is the hardest job in the theater. Absolutely, because they're controlling everything. They got to deal with the actor's safety. They got to deal with prompt books. They got to deal with blocking notes. They got to deal with all this stuff. They got to deal with production notes, and then communicating between calling sound cues and light cues and projection cues, making sure the costume changes are happening. All this stuff is really important, and they need to have a great crew, assistant stage managers and all that. And if there's someone who's not holding their place, then all of a sudden it's like a disaster. So yeah, I totally think the stage manager is the most important person in the theater. How about you, Stan?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think you guys covered it well, but I'll just add two little things. The air traffic controller of the theater, I mean, they're it. They are Grand Central Station. Everything comes through them. And Kate also asked how important are stage manager skills as you develop as a lighting designer. And I think what she might be getting at, or I may be reading into it, but for the lighting designer to have some stage management skills. So I would encourage early career lighting designers, if possible, and this was true for me. I don't know if it was true for Dave and Steve, but I worked as a stage manager, stage managing. And I think that is something you ought to do, because you learn a lot about everything in that position, and I think it helps you. I'm not saying you have to become a stage manager, but I think walking in those moccasins a couple of times would be a good early career experience.
Stan makes a good point. I was a stage manager for one show, and I've told this story before, so I wouldn't tell it again, but on opening night, there was a fire. It's a production of Carousel. I had to clear the theater, and I just vowed never, ever, ever to stage manage again, because you talk about being a nervous wreck. That's when it all began.
Takes a certain kind of person to be. I'm not saying that every lighting designer should be a stage manager, but I am saying that dealing with how they call it, all the things that you guys have mentioned, being in that position for a little bit or a couple of times is an added value to your work as a lighting designer. So we have this one from William, and I'm talking directly into the mic, William, so look out. How do you handle it when an agreed-upon design changes midway through the process? How do you deal with your fee, the extra time you're going to put in, and so on, and how do you manage that? I think that's a really good question, because I'm sure it's happened to everyone on this podcast at one time or another, and you do have to respond to that. So I think there's an ethical question, like, did you see it coming? Did it come out of nowhere? Is the change going to make the project better? And then your own sort of circumstances. Are you going to have to redraft a whole lot of stuff, or is it going to be minor changes? Did they change the whole set? Did the colors change? Is it how much work is involved? I sort of have a little bit of an axiom. So if you negotiated a good fee up front and there's a change and the workload is not going to be extraordinary, just do it. Just make the adjustments to the change, because I think what you're really buying there, unless it's going to be excessive, you're buying what I'm going to coin a phrase today, reputation preservation, right? So if you come back and say, I'm going to need another couple of $1,000 because this is going to be another 20 hours of work because you made this change, you never know how that's going to fly. On the other hand, if it's a small thing or you've already been well compensated, maybe you just let it go, because and you work in good faith and you're a team player. So I think, in my case, lately I had one of those, and it was going to cost us some money to make the change because the thing changed, and what we had designed early on was not going to be the right thing. And I thought, my goodness, someone's going to walk into this place, when we're all done, and they're going to look up in the air, or they're going to go, what the heck were those guys thinking? And I don't want that. But it was going to take about 40 hours of redesign work, and it was going to cost the companies some money, but I thought it was money well spent. So we did not ask for any additional fee because we were more concerned with doing the right thing and maintaining our positive reputation.
We need to point out right now that Stan is talking about an architectural project, and things are different in architecture than they are in theater. Usually in the theater or in any sort of live entertainment type of pre-production situation, we just go with the flow. If there's change, it changes everything. Change is very exciting actually in theater. Even if it causes more work, we get hired in December to do a show that opens in July. That show may change 4 or 5 times. And it's not like we're working more time on or doing more drawings, which we would be doing. Usually the fee that we get to begin with and we negotiate covers things like that. Now, if the show changes once the show opens, then obviously you're spending more time and you're usually working on a daily rate or some type of prearranged agreement and compensation for that. But usually during that process, the show's changing. It's changing when you're in rehearsals. So I think it's a little different.
What if you got you had designed your plot, your boards are all set up, you're ready to roll, and a week before tech, it's a new set.
It's happened. I've been there several times.
I don't know. I just worked on an independent, and I had more blue pages in my script than white pages. So when version 1 of the script comes out, it's all white pages, and then as they start doing rewrites, the easy way to find a rewrite is they type it up on blue paper and insert it in. So that's draft 2, the blue draft. So I mean, I'm serious. There were more blue pages than there were white pages. So, I mean, the set wasn't changing, but
the shots were, right.
The shots were changing.
And that's to be expected, though, right, on a new work, yeah.
More so on a new work, Stan, you're right. More so on a new work. But I've seen established plays change. I have that famous story that I've told about Heaven Sent, that horrible new musical in Florida that was supposedly going to Broadway, that it hit 3 cities in Florida and they changed it every single time. And I made so much money on that show after it had the initial opening because they had to pay my daily rate because they had different production numbers. They fired the director 3 times, 3 different directors, 2 choreographers, a couple of costume designers. It was insane, but I made a fortune. But that's once the show opens. Up until that point, I worked a lot on that show, but my initial fee took care of that.
Right. Maybe that's the crystallized answer, if I might. And I kind of tried to I said this in my answer. Maybe I should kind of maybe make it clearer that you should sort of expect that there's going to be evolution. Like David and Steve are saying in theater, it's going to change. So make sure you build in for yourself enough fee to cover yourself so you're not losing money because you've built in the compensation for the inevitable evolution of a production and changes.
Yeah, there we go. Now we're all on the same page, you see?
Yeah, we are. And they're blue pages. Are they blue pages or white pages?
Blue pages, orange pages, empty pages, it's all the same thing. I'm partial to
pink myself.
I was going to say, I have been setting at tech. I've been setting at tech.
The pages come flying at you.
No, and my script doesn't match anything from the night before. And I'm turned to my stage manager, go, what page are we on? And she goes, 32? Well, it's not my 32. Oh, yeah, we changed that a while ago.
Where were you?
I'm waiting for the green pages.
Steve went to the bathroom. They changed page 32.
Oh, my God. You got to, that's why your assistant has to be on the ball. Hey, Steve, while you're in the bathroom, we cut that scene. We're now doing a production number from Ain't Misbehaving in this place.
Yeah, I worked on new productions. I remember the chaos of that. I do.
Okay, this was inspired, according to Luke, from last week's show. So if you haven't listened to the show last week, listen to our show. It was a great show. This show should be dedicated to Jeff, I think. We should dedicate this show to Jeff. And his teeth. Man, I tell you, Bobby Hale may be the best looking man in the industry.
Jeff's got the teeth.
But Jeff's got the best teeth and the best dental hygiene in the industry.
In the business.
Okay. They have no idea what we're talking about. Luke in Colorado writes, I'm an assistant lighting designer for a well-known lighting designer, and he asked me to light a scene while he took a break. He also asked the programmer to busk during an extended sequence during the show. shouldn't we both get designer credit?
Oh, well. It's not about you, Luke. I'm using my classic line.
Pulling an old chestnut out of your butt. I love it.
Working on a show, and Ethan Steimel was my assistant. And I left the room. And
the whole show changed.
No. Ethan had written a blackout. So where one was needed. So I came back in, stage manager said, "Do you want to look at the blackout?" And I don't know what I was thinking. And I said, "No, get rid of that. I'll write one myself."
Oh, that's classic. Yeah, you can't pay Ethan any more money than he was making. I'm sorry. He was anyway, it's funny because this question has come up because we were talking about this with Jeff Kreuter on last week's show. This is a very good question. When I was in ALD, a long time ago, very long time ago, I don't remember a single time when my designer asked me to light a section of the show. Okay. I do remember moving shows for designers, and when I had to make design decisions while they were not there. So I would always try to make adjustments using their style. I would ask myself, how would Neil, Gilbert, whoever the designer is I was representing, how would they light the moment? But that's not what Luke is talking about. What happens when you ask the programmer or ALD to show me something that works for this moment? I'm going to the bathroom and I'll be back in 10 minutes. I know that this happens.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Happened to Steve. And Steve said that Ethan wrote the blackout. Show me that blackout. That's look good, right?
Well, let me see what you did while I was gone.
But I had the integrity to delete the blackout and put my own blackout in.
And I love that touch. I think that was a really good touch. I'm going to have to remember that. Okay.
Is my blackout the same as your blackout?
Is it a fade to black? The question is, since the ALD or programmer is lighting that section of the show, shouldn't they somehow get associate or co-designer credit? That's what I did when Helen Akuka and I did the Fort Lauderdale Christmas pageant for so many years. She would sometimes light entire production numbers.
How did Jules and Peggy do it?
Yeah, how did Jules? Well, with Helen, she was my associate. First she started as an assistant, but when she started getting more involved in the show, I made her my associate. And I paid her accordingly as well. So that is pretty much what happens. But to say, should I get more money? I don't know. I don't think that's politically wise, even though it's technically your designer should do something for you. And hopefully if they're a good designer, they would do that. What do you guys think? Have you experienced this at all?
I have not. And it's not unusual to sit there and have your programmer come back and say, if I do this and this move will be cleaner. Or if I do this will free up this to do something later. I've never really run into that. And I think it's because you have a designer and a director on a concert tour, and they serve very different purposes, and both of them get credit in separate ways. But I've never asked an assistant to light a scene, and I kind of agree with you. This seems a little awkward. I want to, I want to break the programmer out from the other one. Nowhere in the question does it say that the designer kept the scene that the other person lit either.
I'll go out on a limb and make a crazy prediction in a larger context. I think that the question, and I don't know the answer, but I think the conversation in the future, as Ralph Cramden would say, chef in the future, the question of authorship is going to evolve for reasons that we'll be discussing in the future. Okay.
About 2 minutes from now.
What did Cresswell say? Didn't Cresswell say the future is now?
The future is in 2 minutes after I read the sponsor.
I'm leading into that, but I do think this is part and parcel with the notion of authorship, copyright, all of these ways in which artists in particular have protected their
intellectual
creative property. I think we're entering a very new ecosystem in that regard.
Not if we look at music, then what we're really talking about on one level is sampling. So maybe there's a fee that goes to Luke for, is he using pre-built presets? Is he using color palettes that are built by the designer? I don't think it's an easy, clean question. It's not like he's refocusing the show. It's not like he's choosing the color palette. It's not like he's choosing the gobos. He's assembling things. He's sampling.
Well, you see, when I create music, I'm using presets that were created by some musician and or programmer at Korg or Yamaha or whatever. And I'm using those to create the music. So who's the composer? Is it me or is it that programmer who created that sound? I think it's really tricky.
Like the Mellotron,
really
Mellotron stuff. You didn't create
the Mellotron, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll hear about it in a couple of days.
Yes, we're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about the Mellotron too. There's one sitting in Lori's garage right now that I got to get started working on.
Well, then I think you might understand that you're listening to Light Talk, and today we are sponsored by
Wham-it Corporation. Have you noticed that nobody wants to sit next to you at the tech table anymore? Do your colleagues scooch their chairs away from you when you start speaking? And aren't you tired of your dental hygienist triple masking and admonishing you for poor dental hygiene? Well, Wham-it Corporation has the answer for you. The Wham-it Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine. The Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine is not just any other water pick. Endorsed by Broadway lighting designer and excellent bad guitarist Jeff Kreuter, the Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine produces a finely focused stream of cleaning fluid that will blast away the disgusting crud from your gums and rotting teeth. How powerful is it? Well, don't let that cheap USB power supply fool you. This portable device, small enough to use on tour buses and in filthy backstage bathrooms, produces a stream of cleaning fluid powerful enough to knock over even the most overeager lighting intern. Just plug it into the USB port on your computer, pour in your favorite cleaning fluid into its 1-gallon reservoir, open wide and say, "Oi!" The Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine's high-powered bacteria-killing cleaning fluid will blast against your teeth and gums. And speaking of cleaning fluid, our fluids come in several flavors, including creamy country cow piss, funky fog fluid, spam loaf gravy, purity of essence, and James Bond's favorite, shaken not stirred vodka martini. And for some extra whitening power, try our Big Lebowski Whitening Russian. The dude abides. As an added bonus, the Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine daisy chains to Wham-it's Margarita to Go machine. That's right. Get bombed at the production table while practicing good dental hygiene. Ay caramba! But that's not all. The Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine also includes a made-in-China high-powered laser.
Illegal in some states and territories.
This industrial laser will not only burn the plaque from your teeth, it is strong enough to vaporize last night's garlic spinach scordalia residue right out of your mouth. Plus, the laser can strobe in multiple colors, which combined with our alcoholic cleaning fluids makes your lighting session feel like a night at the disco. So the next time you see the director's eyes start to water from the rotten stench emanating from your mouth, whip out the Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine from your computer bag, plug it in, and allow its industrial strength fluid and laser technology to save your career.
Wham-it Corporation does not take any responsibility for the misuse of any features of the Portable Tech Table Dental Hygiene Machine. This includes improper use of any kind that can do harm to the consumer, property, or small furry animals who may come in contact with its industrial strength fluid jets and laser. In addition, Wham-it Corporation is not liable for any gum bleeding, tooth loss, nerve damage, or any emotional damage to the user. Common side effects may include sleep problems, strange dreams, headache, dizziness, drowsiness, vision changes, tremors or shaking, feeling anxious or nervous, pain, weakness, yawning, malaise, upset stomach, anal leakage, nausea, vomiting, poor design decisions, stuttering, diarrhea, dry mouth, goiters, sweating, hot flashes, ulcers, changes in weight or appetite, or suddenly and unexpectedly speaking with a French accent. Not affiliated with the Big Lebowski, the Coen Brothers, or Jeff Bridges.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those rabid monkeys prancing about the studio tells us that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is titled, Open to Pod Bay Doors, Hal.
Who's Hal?
Hal, 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Not everybody knows that reference.
They better. It's a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Now, I bet David knows this, or Steve, but do you guys know why it was called Hal?
I know this.
You should know it.
I forgot it. I forget a lot of things nowadays.
May I? Before IBM. H before I.
A before B. L before M. Very interesting.
A little Stanley Kubrick trivia there for you.
You gotta love Kubrick.
Did you know that one? Did you know that?
No, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Hal was I guess the offspring of IBM HAL.
We have to explain what this means because go see the movie. If you haven't seen it, go see the movie. It's an awesome movie.
And anyone who hasn't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, who's alive today, should see it.
See the movie. Okay, that's right. Today we're talking about artificial intelligence taking over our art, damn it.
Of which we have none.
We don't have artificial or real intelligence amongst the three of us. So there you go. Maybe Steve has some intelligence.
Steve has some.
But it's country intelligence. I mean, that'll keep him alive. So who is the designer when artificial intelligence designs a significant part of your show? What do you think, gents?
Well, I don't think the computer's going to design a significant part of my show. I think it's unlikely that humans are going to stop creating art. What an AI can do is produce art that's cheap, fast, and effective. But it's not going to pop humans out of a job today or tomorrow. It's not going to eliminate the need for us in the theater. It'll make some things easier. It's like consoles. Consoles make a lot of things a lot easier. So this is just another tool. It's another brush to use.
I agree it's a tool. I don't think we know yet. Well, in our field, it is going to affect our field in ways that I wasn't clear what this stuff was. And here at the University of Florida, there's a huge AI initiative. I'll just tout us a little bit. Chris Malachowski, that name may not be familiar to you, but if you know the company NVIDIA, which builds the great GPUs for all your graphics and your computers, was a co-founder of NVIDIA. And he gave a huge AI computing system to the university. And there's a massive AI initiative here, and I've been listening to the rhetoric. They want to see AI in every curriculum. And I was kind of like, I don't understand how this, I know what a supercomputer is, I know what it does, it's computationally complex, but I didn't quite understand how it would impact my life or my discipline. For a year now, I've been going to symposiums and listening and falling asleep and not really caring. Until 2 weeks ago, when I started to use it. And when I started to use it, I went, oh my goodness. So I started to connect to what its capabilities were, not just for artists and designers, but for humanity. So a little teaser for our listeners. If you haven't gotten a free account on OpenAI and explored a bot called ChatGPT, you should. And also Wall-E, which is the visual version of Midjourney, which David exposed me to. Now, understand that this stuff did not become public until November last month. And so it's a birthing, if you will, of a technology. And we, the humanity, will now start teaching it because it learns.
I'm glad you mentioned ChatGPT because our discussion about this started with ChatGPT. And it was because in one of my classes, I have several essays that the students are required to write about. And one of them is actually has to do with Breaking Bad, the show Breaking Bad, and the art direction. And I believe the prompt is something like, explain how expressionistic naturalism is used in the art direction of Breaking Bad to help tell the story. And I plugged that in to ChatGPT.
It doesn't quite roll off the tongue. It's true.
They got to come up with a better name. The damn machine should come up with a better name for it.
I think Lightalk can help them with that, right?
We should charge them $500,000 for that, okay?
Yeah, right.
Okay. And it returned a 600-word essay that I would have given an A to. And it did it in like 2 minutes or something like that, or 30 seconds. It was ridiculous. It was well written. It discussed the characters and how they were affected by the art direction. It discussed lighting, and it discussed set, and it discussed costumes.
What parameters were put in?
The actual prompt he used on his test.
It was unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying that any of my students use this for their assignment. Matter of fact, there's some very, very good essays written by them. But maybe it could be used very easily to write essays. And you never have to write the essay. I've heard that there is an anti-ChatGPT.
Detect, it's called. Detect.
Mm-hmm. But, schools are going to have to start using that. But the question is, how can you prove it? I mean, if somebody plagiarizes, you have evidence. You have a paper that was actually written. If it's creating a unique document every time, there's no way you can prove that the student never wrote this.
Let me add one thing that I think is important to understand of those of you who are going to start exploring it if you haven't heard about it. Again, it's only been public since November 2022. This thing is not connected to the internet. This is not a search engine. This is, it's taken them 10 years to basically, as David said to me, and I didn't know this piece of it, every piece of written material ever created by humanity is in this.
Yeah, Laurie's son told me that. AI is his specialty.
David, tell them this story about the bump cue, because I think that was very
well. Yeah, and that was the
for
one
us.
thing. The first thing I did, he asked me, asked me a question about lighting, and I said, ask it. What are the most common musical lighting cue types used in a Broadway musical production number? And it drew a blank.
It struggled with that.
It struggled with it, right? And I said, well, obviously it hasn't read my book or the 30 other books that talk about lighting cues. But I went and I asked it myself, and I added a couple of more prompts, and it came back discussing all these cues. It was impressive. I must say, it was impressive.
Is that not just compiling data and giving it back to you?
No, it's not. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, I don't see AI. I think the problems with AI is it's not collaborative. There's no critical thinking. There's no empathy. It's not adaptable.
It doesn't have a soul.
There's none of that. It's what it's doing is what a computer does best, which is scanning tons and tons of data and putting it together very quickly.
And it's forming sentences in a conversational way.
I beg to differ. It's doing a little bit more than that. And I'm not sure I can explain it exactly.
I simply asked that because it struggled with David's questions until he put better keywords in.
Correct. But here's the big caveat. The big caveat is it's just born, and it is now relying on us, humanity, to raise it. And it's not that, and because it's a chat, when you ask the first question, you don't start over again. You ask a deeper question, and it remembers what it already told you and found. So it's a dialogue, in a sense, if you will, with a machine, for sure. But it also, let's say you're an expert in African dance, like one of my colleagues, and we were toying with this yesterday. She is one of the world's experts on African contemporary dance. And we asked it some questions. But each time it answers, you have a thumbs up or a thumbs down to tell it and the developers yes or no. And then you say, here's why it's wrong. So we are in the very early phases, all of humanity, of teaching it. And just let that sink in.
And Steve, let me just interrupt you for a second, Stan. That is when it got it right. When I went back, I said, no, this is wrong. And I started to give it some more prompts. And then it came back with this, with this explanation that was very impressive.
What do you think the purpose of AI is in regards to design, theater design?
Don't know yet.
I mean, well, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't know.
I
do think I started this.
It can't do. It's not a don't know.
Yeah, it can't. It doesn't have a soul. I mean, it's not an artist. It can replicate art. My brother's a computer artist. He uses this a lot in computer art. Stan, what are the name of those programs? I think you were playing with one or two of them.
I think the one that you exposed me to was a Media Journey or Med Journey.
Right, Med Journey.
And the one that OpenAI has is called DALL-E 2. And I've worked with that one as well. But your question about the soul, let me ask you this. I would agree with you it doesn't have a soul. How could it? Okay, but I don't know if you can prove to me that you have a soul, but I believe you do.
That's true. I've never said I did.
Okay, but here's
I've sold my
here's,
soul. The devil has
But
it.
here's a twist on that question, and I'll give you an example of what I did the other night. Can it move a human soul? So I said to it the other night. Now Pam knows I've been messing around with this, and I asked it. I said, "Can you please write a love song for my soulmate, Pamela?" And it did it. And then I copied and pasted that, and I sent it to Pam. She was in the other room. And then she walked into the room. She climbed up on the chair, put her arms around me, and gave me a big kiss. And I was like, what? She goes, I know you didn't write that, but that's really beautiful. And the next morning, I asked her, I said, Pam, did that move your soul? And she said, not as much as if you had written it, it would have moved it more, but it did move my soul. And I can't write music lyrics, but the fact that I thought to have that thing write a love song to Pam, specifically around soulmate, which is how we see it ourselves. And I could have given it more specific prompts, but the fact that, and I had to write a love letter to her, and when I read it, it made me cry. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, I mean, I know it's not AI. So, I mean, I'll put a disclaimer. I realize this isn't AI, but I just want to point out the most sophisticated gaming computers predicted the Georgia TCU game as
Didn't take much computer to figure that one out.
39 to 28. That's where it was, 39 to 28. They weren't even in the ballpark close.
39 to 28. Oh, that was the.
They thought.
Oh, yeah, that was
the
prediction.
computer prediction.
Yeah,
that was a spread on
right.
Georgia TCU.
It was at 63 to 7 or something like that. 68?
65 to 7.
So another reason this is important here at UF is healthcare. So let me give an example. So in the biosciences, they want to understand when DNA replicates how proteins fold on top of each other, and they can't see it, even with the best optics. But what they can do now with this technology is they can see the proteins fold on top of each other in DNA replication. And that information has huge ramifications for health. And how this stuff is going to apply to industries across our economy is still unknown. But I think I don't know, it could be hyperbolic. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but I was not understanding it until 2 weeks ago. And now that I've actually used it, and I think when you use it, you get it. Talking about it in theory and abstract is one thing, but starting to use it is something else.
I don't doubt that what you're saying is important in science and technology and engineering and that stuff. I totally agree. That's amazing. I'm just getting back to the fundamentals of a show about design for entertainment. And I'm not sure that AI is threatening my job anytime in the next couple of days.
No, I think it's going to change your job.
You know, I looked at something really interesting about miniaturization. And Taiwan Semiconductor can now miniaturize something, and they think they've hit the limit of what they can do. They can miniaturize it down to 2 atoms. So, I mean, I can't even wrap my head around an electronic component that's 2 atoms wide. But I don't doubt that AI and computing and technology, again, is going to design a better airplane, or it's going to design, I don't know, warp engines for our spaceships to go to Jupiter. I'm just wanting to know how it fits into my life as a designer. And I don't see it fitting in right now, if for no other reason, we're not a very big industry. So why waste the time on us when they can do this development in chemistry?
Well, next week, we're going to have Bob Boniol on the show, and you can ask him.
He's going to be, if anybody's using it, he's using it.
We're going to have him on the show. We're doing a one-subject show next week, and it's all going to be on AI. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting, because as Stan says, it's going to change everything. It's sort of like the Industrial Revolution, but moving faster.
And to maybe make the next weeks even more salient for everyone, for those who are listening this Saturday, maybe just what happened for me, what was profound for me is when I started to use it, because now it's public.
Yeah,
right?
try it.
Then try it.
Yeah.
Then I started to understand its potential.
Yeah, everyone try
Ask it to sing Daisy and see what happens.
Another Stanley Kubrick reference from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
That was so sad. I was pulling for Hal. Come on, Hal.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to lose their job, but I think our jobs are going to change.
All right. Well, Steve has the last question of the day.
Tom in California writes, which is the most important D in the 5 Ds of design?
David.
There's all kinds of important things in design, and one of them is the 5 Ds. I've forgotten what Jim Gage has. Jim Gage has, I don't know, it's like the 10 something of it.
Yeah, 7 Fs, 12 Ts.
Something like that.
Right.
But if you don't know what the Ds are, the Ds are discovery, design, development, delivery, and debrief.
And
debris? I thought you said debris. Debris.
Oh, debrief.
After the show.
Discovery, design, development, delivery, and debrief.
Okay.
I'm going to say, Tom, for me, I think debrief is the most important thing. I think going back and looking at the successes and failures and having that conversation, certainly you don't have to have it with anybody but yourself, but I think that is the analysis of did it work or did it not work and why. David, you're prancing around like a Labrador.
All I can say
which
is
one do you want to go for?
My most important D is D-money.
D-money.
I want to see the money.
That'd be the 6.
Not
That would be the 6 Ds.
Not the love.
Not the love.
Not the
delirium.
love. Not the soul. You're Mr. Soul.
Right. You know, speaking of Ds, and I just play tribute, we lost a very important person. Steve and I knew this woman for a number of years, Dee Darwin, this week. And she was the mother of the theater department at SMU. And she was there for how many years, Steve? Like 40 or 50 years?
I don't know, but she would come by my office and just look at me. And
the day got better.
No, she would say, I know you haven't read any of my emails. I know you've deleted them. So I've just come up here to go over them one by one with you.
Okay.
And she was right. Every day I would delete all of her emails.
Okay. Well,
so
that was
sad
not
day,
nice.
Sad day.
Now I'm really sad. Now I'm really upset. I mean, she was such a wonderful person. And
I loved her. I absolutely loved Dee.
Her. Everyone loved her. So rest in peace, Dee. You know, we love you. And that's the most important D right there.
You know, when my daughter was 4 years old, she got trapped in Dee's office.
She got locked in it?
Yeah, we were there, and I was getting my mail, and on Dee's desk, she always kept a candy jar. And my daughter's about 4, I guess. And so I'm walking out the door, and my daughter has candy in both hands. So the door closes and locks. All she has to do is put the candy down and turn the doorknob. It's like, no, I'm not putting the candy down.
She's waiting for the third arm to grow, the hand to turn it. So she was busy with 2 of them.
Man, nobody. What a great human being.
Stan, do you have an important D?
D-love.
Deplane. He's taking Deplane.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to our crazy show, Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you decide to litigate us, the robots of the Snoop Group and the legal team of Sparks Burnout Chase will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood, California, Gainesville, Florida, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week when we have Bob Boniol on the show to talk more about Please, Mr. Machine, don't design my show.
Artificial intelligence. Light Talk, broadcasting human questionable knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Doodles.
Light Talk.